Hi, I'm Diane Kometa, and today on Dishin with Di, I'm going to show you how to make my blueberry muffins. I've been working on this recipe for quite a while now, and I think I finally got it perfected. These are cake-like muffins that are absolutely delicious, so I can't wait to share them with you. So let's get started today on Dishin with Di. Need some fresh blueberries, some baking powder, baking soda, and salt, some granulated sugar, and some all-purpose flour. I also have a lemon here that I'm going to be using for the zest, and I have some wet ingredients that we're going to go over in a few minutes. So let's first start with the dry ingredients. So the first thing we have is our all-purpose flour. Now, I've already measured out some of my flour, but I want to show you real quick how to measure it. It's very important that you don't scoop your measuring cup into the flour because sometimes you can end up with a lot more flour than you need. So what I like to do is first get into my bin and I kind of loosen it up. I usually use a knife, or I at least get in there with my scoop and I kind of loosen it. And then you want to pour it into your measuring cup so that it comes up over the top of the cup like so. And then you're just going to level that off with the back of your knife. You don't want to tap it down or anything like that. And you don't want to pack the flour in there. And that's it. That's how you measure your flour. So we're just going to get this out of the way. And now I'm going to take my lemon and I'm going to actually zest this, the whole thing, into the granulated sugar. And the granulated sugar is in a nice big bowl. So this is where we're going to be mixing everything. So that's where you want to put your granulated sugar. We're just going to get the whole thing in here, and this adds a really, really nice flavor to these muffins. Now, here's something interesting that we're going to do. With your fingers, you're going to get into this bowl and you're going to take the lemon zest and you're going to rub it into the sugar like so. And what this is doing is this is helping to release some more of that lemony flavor into your batter. So just go rub it through, and it'll feel like a little bit moist, but just continue to do that for a minute until it's all kind of rubbed in there and it'll start to feel like a little damp almost. Okay, that looks good. Let me just wipe my hands off a little bit. Now we're going to take our dry ingredients, which is what's left, our flour. This is all-purpose flour. Just put that in, along with our baking powder, baking soda, and salt. And we're going to whisk this together thoroughly. It's really important that you get your dry ingredients really well combined. You don't want to have little pockets of baking powder or baking soda, because that's exactly what's going to happen in your final product. You might get like a little hole or something somewhere in there. So just get this really thoroughly mixed through. You want all that lemon zest and that sugar to be really well incorporated there. And sometimes, because the sugar's in there first and because the sugar's heavier, it might sit at the bottom. So I get in there with my spatula like this, and I go at the bottom and I kind of flip it over just to make sure it's really thoroughly combined. I'm a bit obsessive on thoroughly combined things, in case you haven't noticed from some of my other videos. Okay, so that looks perfect. Now we're just going to set this aside for a minute and we're going to get to our wet ingredients. So for the wet ingredients, what you're going to need is some eggs that have been lightly whisked, some melted unsalted butter, some buttermilk at room temperature, some vegetable oil, and some vanilla extract. The eggs are at room temperature as well. So I like to use a big measuring cup, so you could use a bowl for this if you want to, but I like this because then we're going to just dump everything in there, so it kind of makes it easy on cleanup. So into this big bowl, we're going to dump everything. So I think I'm just going to put the eggs in there first. And now if you are doing this at the last minute and you're like, oh darn, I forgot to take my eggs out and they're cold, then you can get like a cup of warm water, have your eggs in there, and let them sit in there for just a few minutes, and they'll come up to temperature really quickly. So I do that all the time because I'm constantly like last minuting everything. So also the butter. Now the butter, make sure this is not too hot. So I heated this up a few minutes ago. It's melted, but it's not hot. So add that in as well. And that's, like I said, the unsalted butter. If you don't have unsalted butter and you're doing this, just cut back on the salt. You don't want it to be too salty. So get that in there. And I melt it in a measuring cup, so then it's a lot easier just to kind of dump everything together. I'm all about trying to make things easy for myself. And then the buttermilk, same thing. Now, buttermilk, I had this sitting out at room temperature. If you last minute the buttermilk and you forgot, pop it in your microwave at 50% power for maybe like 20 seconds and give it a stir. And when you put your finger in there, you don't want it to be hot. You want it to be like maybe about the temperature of your finger. So if it's warmer than your finger, let it sit for a few more minutes. Now, this has been out for a little while and I stirred it because sometimes when you have buttermilk sitting out, it kind of separates. So I just kind of whisked that a little bit a couple minutes ago. So I'm gonna add this into, ooh, what was that? And the vegetable oil. Now, this is actually canola oil, so you can use vegetable oil, not olive oil. That has a flavor to it, so you don't want to use that. Maybe like a safflower oil or something like that. And a little bit of vanilla extract. Now, this is pure vanilla extract, and I like the Madagascar bourbon vanilla extract. It has a really nice flavor to it. You really ought to try it if you haven't. And if you don't have vanilla extract or you don't want to use that, you can use vanilla essence, but this really adds a wonderful flavor to your batter. And just a little bit more. And then we're just going to whisk this together. This is incredibly simple. You just need to get all your ingredients out and then you're really good to go. So just whisk this up. Okay, just make sure nothing's hanging at the bottom. Now, last thing, almost forgot, put your blueberries into your dry mixture. So I actually should have done that in my last step. I just kind of moved a little fast for you. So you're just gonna take these, I washed these and I patted them dry, and you just wanna mix those through. Kind of be gentle, because sometimes if the blueberries are a little bit ripe, then you don't want them all, breaking in there. So just mix those through thoroughly. All right, and that looks good. We got everything in there. Always make sure you didn't miss anything. So I always like to, when I was, starting out and everything, if I have a new recipe, I always keep it in front of me and kind of have a checklist. Did I add that in? And as I add things, I put them away, so don't add them twice. It's happened before. So into this, you're just gonna pour the wet ingredients all at once. Just get it in there. And now I'm just going to kind of fold this in. Now, you don't want to mix this too much. Just want it to get all moist and combined. So there might be some streaks of flour, but that's okay. So I think I counted the last time I did this, it was maybe about 12 strokes. Maybe it's more right now. I don't know how many I just did. And then once it looks like, that looks pretty good. See, there's a little blob. I don't want that much flour. You don't want that much flour. But I don't want to go like briskly stirring this. That looks absolutely perfect right now. I don't want to go any further with that. So now the last thing that I have is this muffin tin, and I've lined it with cupcake liners. So we're going to take the batter and put it into the liners. Now, if you don't have liners, you can get some, vegetable oil or some spray and spray it in there. I wouldn't use butter because that might make it stick. Now, I like to use a ice cream scoop to put my batter in. So if you don't have an ice cream scoop, this is actually a 1/4 cup. So you can use a 1/4 cup measure to do this, or you could use a spoon, but I just find it easier when you have something like this so you know exactly how much is going into each one. So I'm just going to distribute this evenly into my muffin tin. And what I like to do is get it on there and then just kind of, level it off. And just go around and fill them all up. They're pretty much going to come up to the top, so don't worry about that. Because after all, these are muffins. And then we have one more step before we put them into the oven. There's only one last step here, so let me just show you. We have some coarse sugar. This is what they call raw sugar, okay? So now I'm just going to take this and I'm going to sprinkle it on the top of each of my muffins. So this is optional. I do like what the sugar does. It gives it like a little extra crunch on the top. So, you know, do try it if you can. So just get that kind of pretty even on there. And now we have the oven preheated to 375 degrees. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to put it into the oven for about 20 to 25 minutes. And you're going to check them with a wooden skewer or a toothpick to see if they're done. And when that comes out clean, then you'll know. Now I have some that I already made, so I'm going to show you those in just a minute. And they were made a couple days ago, so I'll be able to show you what I do with my leftover muffins. Now when they come out, what I'm going to do is put them in the tin onto a cooling rack, and I'm going to let them sit in the tin on the cooling rack for about 10 minutes. Then once they get like cool enough to handle, I'll take them out of the tin and put them on the cooling rack and let them cool for, you know, maybe another 10 minutes or so. You can let them cool completely if you want to, but I do like to have them warm, so I'll show you those in a couple seconds. Okay, these are the muffins that we just baked, and I'm just going to insert this wooden skewer in here. I already did this, and it comes out clean. That's a little blueberry on there, but that's okay. So these are done. Now, the other thing is that sometimes right after they're cooked, after you wait like the 10 minutes, they're a little stuck. So what I do is I kind of turn them like this. I just go around and I make sure that I'm not picking up one. Like, see, this one's a little stuck because sometimes a blueberry might burst and it'll run down the side and it might stick to the bottom. So just do that, or have like a little knife ready in case you have to kind of, you know, loosen it up a little bit. So now with these, I'm going to take these and put them onto this cooling rack and let them cool completely. So we just pop them out, and look how beautiful they are. The tops are nice and crisp. They're nice and big. I mean, they're just gorgeous, and we can eat these. They're still hot, but believe me, I'll find a way to get that into my mouth. This is what's left of the muffins I made a few days ago. Let me just show you real quick. Just take it out of its little packaging, and I'll cut it in half like so. And see, it's very cake-like in there. It's gorgeous. And then I'll pop this right into my toaster. Now, you could do it as another option, take it and put it into your oven, but you know, that's totally up to you. I'm all about easy. But let's not worry about the one that's left over. Let's go after one of these freshly made ones. Now, these are super hot, but let me just take it out very carefully for you. And you see, you know, it has a beautiful, nice shape to it. Okay, and I'm going to break this open. It's a little warm. Look at that. And the heat is coming out. I mean, these are still like piping hot. Really should wait a couple more minutes, but no problem. The top is crisp. The inside is light. Okay, and cake-like I said, all right, and that sugar really makes a difference, so do try that if you can. Now, the recipe is on my website, dishinwithdi.com, so be sure to go over there and check everything else out too. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing is free, and it just helps you to get updated every time I have a new recipe. And give me a thumbs up and like my video. I look forward to seeing you next time, and I hope I made your life a little easier, more enjoyable, and delicious. Bye-bye now.